All right, let's see. Welcome back. So, like, new season, I believe already started. Let me double check. Oh, that sucks. Hasn't started yet, but I guess we can start learning the jungle.
So it's the end of the season and the start of a new one. We all know what that means. It's time for Riot's yearly rework of the jungle. And before we all have to collectively sigh at having to once again relearn everything, don't worry, because we here at Skillcapped got you covered. In this video, we'll not only be going over every single jungle change in the new preseason, but also how these changes will impact the jungle meta moving forward. You're going to want to watch until the end for this one, as there are a ton of jungle changes that went completely under the radar that no one actually knows about. Riot hasn't even announced them, so trust me, you don't want to miss this one. And it goes without saying, with the preseason changing, well, everything, the best place to stay updated with the meta and the latest strategies is on our website, skillcap.com. Throughout this entire preseason, we'll be releasing cutting-edge guides that will be exclusive to our website. So, if you want to stay ahead of the competition, click the link in the description below and check us out. Alright, so first, let's start with one of the biggest changes, the introduction of jungle pets. There are now 3 jungle pets you can choose to purchase at the start of the game that have completely replaced the previous Ember Knife and Hail Blade starting items. And this is a big deal, as these new jungle pets are completely different compared to the previous items that you would buy. First, Smite has been totally changed. For context, last season, Smite would do 450 damage to monsters as well as heal you. Then, once you had smited 5 times, it upgraded the Smite to do 900 damage. It would also upgrade to either give you Chilling Smite or Challenging Smite, depending on what jungle item you purchased at the start of the game. None of what I just said is in the game anymore. Instead, your Smite will now do 600 damage at the start of the game instead of 450. Now, before you jungle mains get too excited, keep in mind, Smite, it no longer heals you anymore at any point in the game. In addition to this, Smite will no longer upgrade by smiting a camp 5 times. Instead, it has a treat system tied to the pet that you purchase at the start of the game. Every time you kill a large monster, you will feed a single treat to your pet. However, you will also generate a bonus treat every 60 seconds, which will also be consumed when you kill a large monster. Now, this is very important. These bonus treats can also be stacked. So, for example, if you did nothing for 120 seconds, you would have 2 bonus treats to cash in. Do keep this in mind though, even if you had like 10 stacks of bonus treats, you can only cash in a maximum of 1 additional bonus treat per camp. So for example, you would not get 10 stacks off of 1 large monster kill. The reason why all of this is so important is that when your pet has consumed 20 treats, that is now when you upgrade your Smite. This is the first upgrade and will increase the Smite damage from 600 to 900 damage. This is the same as the previous patch. It also allows your Smite to be cast on enemy champions to deal true damage and slow them. Essentially, everyone, regardless of the pet that you choose, will get the old Chilling Smite once your pet has consumed 20 treats. Well, kind of. It's actually weaker than the old Chilling Smite because now it only slows the target. Previously, you would actually steal the movement speed, which meant you slowed and speed boosted yourself. Here's what's actually crazy though. Of course, as we do at Skillcapped, we went into the weeds and really thoroughly tested this. Last season, when you would upgrade your Smite after smiting 5 times, the fastest you could upgrade your Smite would be by 6 minutes and 35 seconds in-game time. Remember, upgrading your Smite would make it do 900 damage to monsters and give you Chilling or Challenging Smite. I want you to compare this to the current preseason patch where you have to consume treats. Keep in mind, we literally just only power farmed and tried to optimize the clear to get the maximum amount of treats as possible. And even when doing that, we were only able to upgrade our smite by 7 minutes and 45 seconds. That means even if you're trying to literally upgrade your smite as fast as possible, which obviously most players won't be, upgrading your smite will at a minimum take 1 minute and 10 seconds longer than last season. Realistically though, it will be much longer than that. This is a big deal because, well, for one, there's no more challenging smite, period. But now junglers won't even have any smite to help them with fights in the early game until much later. And it goes without saying, this is a pretty big nerf to junglers' power level as a whole. It doesn't stop here though, because once you hit 40 treats, your jungle pet then reaches adulthood. When this happens, your smite will increase from 900 damage to monsters to 1200. This is massive, as now junglers will find it much easier to secure objectives such as Baron and Dragon. At the same time, if one jungler has a fully upgraded jungle pet and the other doesn't, well, he has a 300 damage smite advantage, which can make smite stealing a much bigger threat. It doesn't stop here though, as once your pet has reached adulthood, it will grant a permanent bonus effect to your champion based on the pet you chose.
Okay.
The Scourgeclaw pup will collect Ember stacks over time or by killing monsters. Damaging a champion with 100 Ember stacks slows enemies by 30% for 2 seconds and burns them for 4% max health true damage. The Gustwalker Hatchling will grant you 45% movement speed, decaying over 2 seconds upon entering brush, increased to 60% when killing large monsters. And finally, the Moss Stomper Seedling will grant you a permanent health shield upon killing a monster camp that also regenerates after 10 seconds out of combat. While shielded this way, and for 3 seconds after the shield breaks, you will gain 20% tenacity and slow resistance. Now, before you get too excited about these effects though, we kind of have some bad news as we tested out how long it takes to get to 40 treat stacks to unlock them. Keep in mind, again, we literally just power farmed to try and get this as fast as possible, and still, it wasn't until about 13 minutes and 45 seconds that we got 40 treats and got our pet to adulthood. Of course, realistically, it's going to take a few more minutes than that in your own games. So you're probably thinking, what does all this mean? Well, you can expect junglers to be much weaker in the early game when it comes to dueling and ganking power. Compared to last season, they don't upgrade their first smite until much later. And they also don't have access to challenging smite, which was by far the most popular and powerful smite upgrade for most champions. Even if you were a champion that ran chilling smite, like Elise Jungle for example, you won't be getting that unlock until much later, meaning you'll have to execute ganks without the benefits of chilling smite for a much longer period of time. Simultaneously, if this wasn't bad enough, the effects they gain from an adult pet doesn't realistically unlock until the end of laning phase. Again, this means that they can't really use that boost in power to help snowball in the early game, and instead, this is more of a passive bonus for the mid to late game for junglers. Overall, given that the role of junglers is typically to, impact the early game, and based on our playtesting, we believe these to be an overall nerf to the jungle role. Believe it or not, a much bigger change though, is that the healing you would get from your jungle item, well, it no longer exists. For those of you who aren't aware, last season, your jungle item would actually grant you 7% Omnivamp against jungle monsters. This would help keep you healthy as you clear the jungle. This is now completely removed, meaning the new jungle pets don't give you any form of healing.
Well, this is what Riot wants you to think. They actually hit it so well we almost missed it, but this is why we're really a team here at Skullcap, so that we can make sure you get all of the info. There's some wacky parts to healing. Even though it's not listed anywhere, the jungle pet will heal you based on the damage it deals. This is overall a sustained buff for champions that don't benefit that much from Omnivamp, but a massive nerf for those that would normally be able to heal off of the AoE camps like Raptors. It's strange that the pet heals a flat amount every time it attacks, regardless of how many targets it hits. So you can't just benefit off of AoE Omnivamp like you used to, and the overall healing is rather small. In an even weirder turn of events, the healing doesn't scale with level at all. As you can see that at level 1 and 18, you heal the exact same amount. However, once you start buying stats, the number skyrockets. So it appears that base stats do not affect the healing, however bonus stats do. And for some reason, this only applies to health, ability power, and attack damage, not armor or anything else for whatever reason. Stuff like this really makes you wonder, but anyways, back to Hexadecimal's commentary.
So you're probably thinking, junglers will now take a ton of damage from jungle camps with no way to sustain up. But Riot has now addressed this by, wait for it, making every large monster heal you after killing it. Basically, remember how before only the Gromp would give you this giant heal based on your missing health after killing it? Well, you now get a reduced version of that, but for every large monster you kill. Again, keep in mind, this will increase its healing based on your missing health. So you will be rewarded with gaining more health over time if you stay low on health in the jungle during your clears, as counterintuitive as that sounds. But if you thought the healing changes were crazy, then what they did to the jungle mana regeneration will actually blow your mind. Prior to the preseason, you had two main ways of gaining mana as a jungler. Well, besides having a blue buff. You could kill your Gromp, and your jungle item would regen missing mana per second when you're in the jungle or river. Well, now every large monster you kill will give you mana back, not just the Gromp like before. At the same time, they seem to have secretly buffed how much mana you passively regen when in the jungle or river. When we were playtesting this on the PBE, we found it nearly impossible to actually run out of mana as a jungler, as you would just get an insane amount of regeneration the lower in mana you were. And the changes that jungle pets have caused don't stop here, not even close, as they both removed and added several other effects. For one, every jungle pet will now immediately grant you the effect of taking 30% reduced damage from epic monsters while two or more ally champions are nearby. So, epic monsters are monsters like Dragon, Rift Herald, and Baron. This 30% reduced damage is actually quite significant. You can see here, I'm taking 51 damage from the Dragon, but with two allies nearby, it drops all the way down to 34. Basically, if you're taking an objective with your team, you'll be rewarded by not taking as much damage when you're the one tanking it. This will help reduce scenarios where you try to start Baron or Dragon, only to end up being the one guy on the team really low in health, and not being able to contribute to the ensuing teamfight. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are kind of nodding your head thinking that this is a cool change. Well, this is going to blow your mind what's coming up next. You see, last season's jungle items, they would have a unique passive on it called Seer. This would apply a damage burn over 5 seconds on any jungle monster you damaged. This passive is now completely removed. Yes, you heard me right. In its place, your jungle pet will simply deal damage to the entire camp on its own. This is a massive deal. This cannot be overstated enough. Last season, let's say you were playing Warwick and clearing your raptor camp. The optimal way to clear would be to apply one auto attack to each small raptor. This way, you would apply the Seer passive to each of them and increase the overall damage you did to the camp. Well, now you can just walk up and focus the big raptor, and your jungle pet will attack the small raptors for you and take care of the rest. They've basically removed the clear optimization you would have to do as a jungler involving the Seer passive. With that being said, there will, of course, still be optimization to be had. For example, here you can see I focus the big raptor down instead of spreading damage like I would last season. However, pay attention here. Once only the small raptors are left, notice how I leave one of the small raptors low on health. I know I don't need to auto attack it anymore to kill it since my pet will finish them off. You can see the same idea once the entire camp gets low enough. You no longer need to waste time damaging them since your jungle pet will just kill them for you. Long story short, optimizing the Seer passive may be gone, but there's still optimizations you can do with the new jungle pets. And boy, does it seem like Riot really loves their secrets, as here's another massive change that they didn't even tell anyone about. They've massively buffed the Krug camp. You see, last season, upon killing the large Krug, it would separate into 2 medium Krugs. Those 2 medium Krugs would then separate into 2 small Krugs each. Now, in the preseason, upon killing the large Krug, it just immediately separates into 4 small Krugs. There are no medium Krug spawns. Now, you're probably thinking, well, it must be worth significantly less experience and gold then, since it's kind of losing a part of the camp. But not really. The new Krug camp only gives 17 less experience and 30 less gold. That's practically nothing, given how much faster you can clear it now. And again, fret not, I know a lot of you guys are worried about how this would change your level up timings. Well, we tested it, and it doesn't. With the new Krugs, you still hit level 3 off of red, Krugs, and Raptors, and you still hit level 4 if you full clear your entire jungle. But again, sadly, or happily if you're not a jungle main, a trend you're probably noticing is for every buff, there is a nerf that follows. At the very beginning of the game, you'll now notice that your jungle item is a little bit pricier than you're used to, 100 gold more expensive to be exact. Yes, pet ownership is really expensive, who knew? The most standard start last season was universally jungle item plus refillable potion. There were some rare exceptions like Fiddlesticks and Warwick and other champions with extremely healthy clears that would sometimes opt for a control ward plus 1 potion instead. Now, it's impossible to have these starting items. You're actually forced into jungle item and only 1 health potion. And obviously, as we mentioned earlier, the whole healing in the jungle has changed drastically like we mentioned, but one trick not a lot of players realize is tied to the value of having a health potion during an actual fight. One thing you need to keep in mind though, is that most champions are able to clear on decent health now. You'll be able to use both the red buff and camp healing to maintain your health levels. But here's the trick, both your red buff and your camps heal for your missing health, so you will want to remain relatively low during your clear to get the most out of it. Basically, you won't really be able to just sit on full health anymore. Expect to be around 60% health the whole time on most champions. You don't want to fall for the beginner trap of consuming your only health potion early on in your clear. the health you will gain from that health potion is actually health you're losing from the camps and red buff healing. It will be a complete waste. You'll instead want to save your one potion to pop during an important skirmish, as that healing will often be the difference of who wins or loses that fight. And obviously, it goes without saying, if you do predict you'll be invaded, or you're the one invading, definitely just use your health potion at that point. Otherwise, try not to use it, as mathematically it will be a waste. Okay, so at this point in the video, you're probably thinking, oh my god, this is insane, what is Riot doing? The jungle is ruined. Well, don't worry, as we haven't even got to the good stuff.
Which
you see,
is?
last season, some champions used to be able to clear extremely healthily by utilizing advanced kiting, such as a ranged jungler like Kindred. You won't really be able to do that anymore. The overall camp leash ranges have been drastically reduced, so champions that used to be able to kite like this and only take a few hits just simply won't be able to do that anymore. In the preseason, you can see that the actual leash range is now visually defined by a tinted white outline around the camp, and this is much smaller than what it used to be. For context, this is the range in Season 12, and you can really just see how massive of a difference it is. Every single jungle camp has had this drastic reduction in its leash range, and it makes the more standard strategies of taking 2 camps at once completely impossible. And while that does sound like a nerf for junglers with strong AoE, I'm looking at you, Hecarim, Amumu, and Fiddlesticks, and it does mean these types of junglers' clear speed is worse than before. However, Riot has really brought everyone closer to the baseline level of what they think a jungler should be, and made it easier to clear as a whole. For example, in Season 12, Camille Jungle would just die on Raptors since she lacked significant enough AoE damage, and it made her completely unviable since you were so limited in the camps you could actually do. Now, she's actually a pretty decent jungler. You can see you can actually finish a full clear by 3 minutes and 38 seconds with just a little bit of optimization. And I already know some of you are thinking, wait a minute, that's really not that fast, and you would be correct. Well, you'd be correct last season. And the main reason for that is we used 3 minutes and 15 seconds as the benchmark for having a fast clear, as that's when the Scuttle Crabs would spawn. For example, champions like Karthus, who had incredible clear speeds, were super powerful since they were able to full clear, get level 4, and hit that 3 minute and 15 second Scuttle spawn a level higher than the enemy jungler. Compare that to the new preseason patch. Even with an unoptimized clear as Kindred, you can clear significantly faster than last season. For example, in this case, finishing at around 326 compared to after 330 like last season. And why is this so important to be under 3 minutes and 30 seconds? Well, Riot changed the Scuttle's spawn timer from 3:15 to 3 minutes and 30 seconds. This means that even the worst of the worst jungle clearers like Camille are going to be able to get a crab on time, level 4, even if they end up full clearing. Do realize that in the Camille example we showed you, we full cleared by 3:38, but remember that is with absolutely no leash and is completely unoptimized. Basically, nearly every champion is going to easily be able to get to the Scuttle Crab on time, which significantly reduces the strength of those early game power farmers like Karthus and Hecarim. But the changes don't stop there, as the Scuttle Crab has also had its shield removed. Last season, you had to use either some form of hard crowd control or smite to be able to remove that shield that the Scuttle would spawn with. Now, you no longer have to do that, and that is a big deal. This means you don't need to save your smite or have hard crowd control in your kit to do the Scuttle fast. Again, this is Riot trying to level the playing field so more junglers can actually, well, jungle. And to no one's surprise at this point, there's actually more hidden changes Riot implemented to the most fundamental mechanic of jungling, monster patience. Again, to give you guys some context, last season there was an invisible area around a camp and it acted as the leash range, and there was only one rule surrounding it. If you were inside that leash range, then the monster would not lose patience. But if you were the one outside of it, it would start to lose patience over about 4 seconds. Essentially, it would not matter if the camp itself was outside of its leash range. All that mattered was that your champion was inside it. At the same time, if you messed all this up, and let's be honest, we all did, then the patience meter would hit 0 and the camp would speed back to its starting location and regenerated health insanely fast. If this happened to you, you're pretty much screwed as you effectively reset the entire camp and just wasted a massive amount of your time. This is not the case anymore. Now, if a camp is outside of the leash radius, it will start to lose patience even if you're inside it. This really hurts the ability to optimize clears and pathing. However, arguably one benefit is what happens now when the patience of a monster hits 0. The meter will blink red momentarily, and if you damage the camp again during this time, the patience meter will actually refill and the camp will stop regenerating health. Basically, accidentally resetting camps is now less punishing than it was before. And I'm sure all of this is starting to sound like it's pretty much pointless to kite camps with the short leash ranges, and that Riot has significantly nerfed optimizing your clears. And although that is true, it's not entirely true. For example, with it taking 4 seconds for a camp to reset outside of its leash range, you can still cut down on your clear times by just timing your kiting so the camp dies right before it resets. And I know for a fact that a lot of you guys have had a scowl on your face the entire time listening to these changes. If that's you, well, you may want to plug your ears for the next ones. Riot has essentially massively nerfed counter jungling with the two following changes.
Why?
The first change is that small monsters, they cannot be left alive after the large monster is killed. Last season, when counter jungling, it would be very common to leave something like a little raptor alive. This would delay the camp's respawn until it was cleared by the enemy jungler, and it would desync your opponent's camps. Now, if you try to do this, the camp will just straight up despawn after a short delay. Here is what's really crazy though. This doesn't apply just to your enemy's camps. If you accidentally do this to yourself while trying to kite, feel free to just move on to the next camp. Sure, you will lose a tiny bit of experience and gold, but save tons of time now that you don't have to go back and finish clearing it. The game just does it for you now. And if hearing about that change didn't make your jaw drop, well, the second one definitely will. There is now a damage modifier for camps that are not your own. Yes, you just heard that right. For example, on your own buff, you can see a single auto attack results in 70 damage. But that same auto attack on the enemy red buff will result in a meager 58 damage. Essentially, you will now do 20% less damage to the enemy's camps compared to your own. Obviously, this then translates to making the act of counter jungling much slower. Well, 20% slower in fact. And you can imagine when you combine that with the earlier change where you can no longer leave small monsters alive to punish the enemy jungler even further by preventing that camp from respawning, it does make you wonder if counter jungling is even going to be worth it. And while I leave that thought to ruminate in your brain, let's move on to something a bit less, oh my god, the entire game is different, what am I doing? Riot has now officially brought back the Chemtech Drake. Killing a Chemtech Dragon will now grant you 5% tenacity and 5% heal and shield power. Additionally, getting the Chemtech Soul will grant you 10% damage resistance and 10% increased damage while below 50% health. What's really crazy though is what happens to Summoner's Rift when the Chemtech Drake is the third dragon that spawns. All the jungle plants will become mutated and have upgraded effects. For example, honey fruits will upgrade into stim fruits, no longer slowing champions that consume them, and grant a small bonus shield in addition to the usual heal. Scryer's Bloom will upgrade to Stalker's Bloom. When hit, it will now reveal a small circular area around the player and a cone opposite of the direction it was hit. This grants you a huge movement speed boost towards revealed enemy champions and reduces wards revealed to 1 health. And lastly are the blast cones, which now blast those in range twice as far as before. This allows you to set up some insane plays with them that you never could before. Oh, and speaking of objectives like Dragon, Riot has now added an objective voting system. The way it works is, let's say as a jungler, you go to start the Dragon or Rift Herald. It will automatically create a vote on the right-hand side of your screen. Since you've started the objective, it automatically considers you to have voted yes. Your teammates, on the other hand, will get an expanded version of the panel where they can vote to take it or not. The idea being, gives you a better idea on whether or not your teammates are actually going to react. Additionally, you can also trigger the vote by simply pinging the objective itself instead of starting it. This method even works if the objective hasn't spawned yet. Again, the hope is to get the team on the same page on whether or not you're going to group up to take the objective or not. And finally, the last massive change for junglers is the new enemy ward tracking system. Now, if you ping an enemy ward that you saw them place within the last 10 seconds, a perfectly accurate ward timer will appear in that location until the ward is removed or expires. This is honestly one of the bigger buffs to junglers in this entire patch, as now you're able to get the exact timers on when a laner's ward has expired to guarantee that they won't see you executing a gank on them. Alright, and as you can probably tell from the length of this video, there were quite a lot of changes to the jungle in this preseason. And to be honest with you, there will definitely be more coming, as we all know Riot loves to use the preseason as one giant testing ground. That's why if you want to stay updated with the meta and the latest strategies, then you want to head over to our website skillcap.com. Throughout the entire preseason, we'll be releasing cutting-edge guides that will be exclusive to our website.
Alright. So since the rank didn't start yet, my LP. Let's not go to rank. Go to draft. Ay, ay, ay. See how this works. Oh. Oh my god. Why? Oh, Malphite jungle?
Conflict feeds the Freljord.
Let's go.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Tranquility is death. In Ionia, it is life.
30 seconds until minions spawn. Minions have spawned.
us all things thrive. act to protect our own.
Rampage.
sword is a voice.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Both temporary. We walk in the footsteps of fate. Names and power. Many spirits have trusted you. Flames grow. Mother Bear. Silence is
An enemy is godlike.
we look after what's ours. To walk with the spirits is to adapt to their needs. Begin.
Killing. Legendary.
My soul is rested. Let's try again. Mother bear. I bridge many divides. Perhaps next time. Until there is balance, we cannot surrender. Flames grow.
Wow. Oof. Wow, me. Alright, so it wasn't that much harder. That was gonna be way harder. Eight six 8699. Nice. All right, no new champion. Anyway, that was a fun game. Um, new jungle seems kind of just the same, except that now you farm in the beginning. But yep, I'll see you guys next time. Probably in the next few days. I'll be streaming a lot of League because I'll be doing the rank system whenever it goes live in 2 days. So see you.